Hello everyone, welcome to our Week 2 reflections and also my first film debut. This week we explored the normative framework of humanitarian civil-military coordination. We learned about the spectrum of UN-CMCoord strategies, which range from cooperation to coexistence, about the 3 coordination elements, and of course the 5 specific UN-CMCoord tasks. On these topics, one colleague observed how the UN-CMCoord role is an all-encompassing and rather complex position with so many tasks and considerations to juggle at the same time. In a similar way, one colleague now better understands the concerns that civilian or humanitarian actors can have when engaging the military and applying the CMCoord principles, including that of last resort. We also learned about the different concepts for military interaction with civilians, including UN CIMIC, NATO CIMIC, and African CIMIC. A colleague reflected that this served as a good reminder that military concepts of CIMIC are ultimately about furthering the mission objectives, also how this differs from humanitarian objectives, and therefore how important it is for us to understand each other's mandates and purpose. We also explored in depth the different UN-CMCoord liaison arrangements, which range from co-location to liaison exchange, liaison visits, or using an interlocutor. One important and helpful clarification made this week was that these 4 types of arrangements are fluid, highly dependent on context, and one or more arrangements can be employed to suit the needs on the ground. One reflection also noted the need to be aware of appropriate participation in liaison arrangements. It may not be suitable to have a certain actor present in one coordination mechanism, but they can and certainly should be engaged through other liaison arrangements. This topic also raised a reflection point on UN-integrated missions, which often force humanitarian UN organizations to be co-located with UN political and military entities. This, of course, greatly impacts real and perceived neutrality, independence, and distinction of humanitarian organizations, and therefore our ability to engage all parties to the conflict. And this can ultimately reduce our effectiveness as UN-CMCoord officers. Finally, we were reminded about effective communication. Colleagues agreed that this session served as a good refresher about the power of language and how to choose more positive and cooperative approaches. Colleagues also noted how who we represent in an emergency, such as our organizations or states, or even our title and role, can affect how we are received and understood when we deploy, sometimes even before we arrive. While this can be a challenge in some cases, it's also an opportunity to present ourselves in a positive way, build relations and confidence, and perhaps even change some of those perceptions for the better. Well, thanks for listening. Have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll see you next week.